Welcome to the Agent of Wealth podcast with Mark Bautis from Bautis Financial. In this podcast, Mark helps guide you towards financial freedom, ensure you never run out of money, and create a balance in life that prioritizes what is most important to you. Join us for this journey as Mark draws from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the multiple wealth building challenges involved in your financial life.
Welcome back to the Agent of Wealth podcast. This is your co-host, John Williams. And for many people, their home is their largest financial asset. But if you live in a co-op or a condo, the value of that asset isn't determined solely by the housing market, interest rates, or location. It's also influenced by governance. Poor financial oversight, deferred maintenance, ineffective leadership, and the lack of a long-term planning can quietly erode property values, create unexpected assessments, and make buildings less attractive to future buyers. Today's guest has spent more than a decade helping co-op and condo boards avoid those costly mistakes. Joining us today is Tina Larsson, co-founder of the Folson Group, New York's premier co-op and condo consulting firm. After uncovering a $340,000 financial drain in her own building, Tina left a successful career on Wall Street and dedicated herself to helping boards operate more strategically and protect property values. She's also the author of Living the High Life and a sought-off speaker on condo and co-op governance. Tina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here today.
We're really excited for today's conversation. I know our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. Before I get started, I'd just like to say that Bautis Financial, I'm a wealth manager at Bautis Financial, financial planner. We are accepting new clients. If you wanted to connect with us to see how we might be able to take some of the stress out of managing your money, we'd be happy to have a complimentary conversation with you. You can just reach out to us at www.bautisfinancial.com/call. We'll put that in the show notes, as well as some ways that we'll talk about at the end of the show here, how you might be able to connect with Tina. So with that, let's get started. So as a side note, I'm always interested to hear people's story about their career change. They find an idea, and it sounds like you had a successful career going. So that probably in of itself was not an easy decision, but you obviously saw the opportunity there. I'm curious to get started here. What made you first realize what that looked like for you and finding this major problem that potentially needed some attention?
That's a great question, John. And it was a process. Oh, first, let me tell your listeners that I'm from Sweden in case they're trying to decide what my accent is.
I was going to ask you, but I thought maybe you might mention that.
Yeah, so I'm from Sweden. I moved to New York in 1994, so I've been here for a long time. I've been here longer than I was in Sweden. Anyways, so I worked on Wall Street. I was a business analyst on Wall Street, in a financial services industry, and I was a general analyst. My husband and I, we had an RIA together, and we owned an apartment together, which happens to be a co-op. And we said to ourselves, one day we were like, there's no inflation, 15 years ago, no inflation, yet our maintenance, which is basically the rent or the common charges or the HOA fees, whatever you want to call them, they were increasing by 5% per year for the last 10 years at that time. And we went like, they're not doing a good job. They're wasting our money, kind of like a doge. So we spoke with some of our neighbors and we organized a coup and we took over the board. And then the new board asked me to help them identify any savings, if I could find any savings. So I used my analytical skills from my financial services background. I applied it as this was a brand new industry, and we were able to discover $340,000 in savings. In that process, we realized that board have their limitations, and the property manager who acts on the board's decisions, there's a big gap there, and there's nobody who really helps fill that gap. So we started our business over 12 years ago, close to 13 years ago, to fill that gap.
Yeah. I was mentioning to you, like I've seen these problems firsthand, like spending a lot of time in Florida. I'm not super involved, but to me, a lot of times these are like volunteers. I guess I'm more curious about your specific situation. Did you kind of take a step back and be like, wait, what's going on here? Like, what were some of the things you identified that were ultimately like just glaringly wrong with the way things were being governed?
So I don't think that there's anything glaringly wrong. There's a lot of complications. So let me back up for your listeners who don't know this already. So there are 66 million Americans who own some form of HOA. They might be called HOA, they might be called community association. In Florida, they're very often called condos. In New York City, they happen to be called a co-op or condo. That's just the legal structure of the organization. Our specialty is not a gated golf community. Our specialty is apartment buildings. But whether they're located in Miami, in Surfside, which we had nothing to do with, or in New York City, they have a similar structure, right? And in those, so if you have an apartment building, you have all of these owners, and then for obvious reasons, not all of them can make decisions. So therefore, they have an annual meeting and a nomination process, and then all the owners, they vote in a few board members who then make decisions on the entire, kind of like a miniature government. Problem is that they are volunteers. They're doing this on their spare time. They already have a full busy schedule in most cases. They're doing it with very little technical knowledge. So engineering and facades and balconies. I mean, how many just random volunteers who happen to own an apartment would have the technical skills in that area, right? And then many of them make multi-million-dollar decisions, which some have, but many of them have never made on the behalf of others before. And then they rely on the property manager. The property manager very often have too many buildings, so they don't really have the time to provide the support that the board needs. They have, in many cases, they have the knowledge, but it's then the time, and then they get tired of the board not making decisions. So there's a little bit of, you tell someone to do something and they don't do it, and then you have to, how do you change that so they actually do what you ask them to do? So.
Yeah, there's probably maybe in the beginning few that show up, and then they see there's a really big problem, and by that time it may be already too late. Kind of some of these decisions were already made, and I imagine there's a lot of friction between the actual building owners and these board members at certain points, and I'm sure you have stories about how that can get ugly.
Yes, it can.
On one hand, I look at it and I'm like, all right, well, no good deed goes unpunished. Like, you're volunteering your time. But at the same time, these are really big decisions, a lot of money involved.
And then it's for the safety of the residents, right? It's not only deciding on the color of the lobby, it's actual safety issues,
Sure.
Elevators, facades, balconies, roofs. I mean, they're major safety risks.
Whenever you mention the word safety balcony in New York City, I'm sure the size of the buildings that are there, it doesn't take a genius to know that that's something that somebody's going to be pretty concerned with.
Yeah.
What's the connection between property values and this poor governance? Like, where does the rubber meet the road there?
So there are two separate ways that property values increase. So property values increase the lower your monthly fees, meaning your common charges, HOA fees, maintenance, it's called. Whatever your fee plus your monthly mortgage payment is, that total cost of owning, that total cost, the lower it is, the higher property value, because then you can afford to buy more, right? So not wasting any money allows for the maintenance fee or the common charges to stay low, and the lower it is, the higher the property value. So there's that aspect to it. And then it's also the aspect of a building that is in tip-top shape. Right? So it attracts more buyers if it's in very good shape and well governed and well maintained than it is if it looks like a mess.
Yeah. So is there other aspects to that, like potentially that are like those seems to be like the things on the surface, but you had mentioned that sometimes the poor governors can silently destroy property values. Like, I remember looking for apartments in New York City when I lived there, and you'd see some of these, just the fees for the building alone were pretty high. Funds are limited, and you have to make some decisions with regards to this. So if you have like a $2,000 or $1,000 condo fee or co-op fee, it's obviously a big consideration. And then looking into the health of and the quality of the building, how well it's kept. Is there anything that's like underneath the hood that like maybe aren't gleamingly evident that are maybe, like you said, just silently destroying these property values?
We always say, look at, if you're buying into an apartment, obviously you want to look at the financial statements and see the condition of the building. But those are the audited financial statements. It's kind of not so easy. Maybe you and I know how to read them, but it's not so easy to know if there's any waste or if there's anything that doesn't make sense. But to look through the minutes, you'll often see if they're proactively trying to solve issues. Although I have to tell you that in the minutes, it doesn't say a whole lot.
Really?
No. So very often it will say something like, oh, they're having a problem with this. A delinquent owner was discussed. But it doesn't say that she hasn't paid for the last 5 years. Right. I mean, lawsuits, they have to put in the audited financial statements, but they're an insurance claims or insurance receipts. But there are a lot of things that are not in the minutes and not in the audited financials that is kind of vague and not so easy to know. It's good to speak with the super and with the staff in the building. One thing that we always say, if you go to the basement, if you get a chance when you're buying your apartment, we know you're buying your apartment, go down to the basement and see how clean it is, how organized it is. Because that, just like, when you go to a restaurant, if the bathroom is dirty, you don't want to eat there, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense too.
And think about it. So when we organized the coup 15 years ago, my husband is on the board. I'm actually not, but you can only be one from each apartment. So at that time, the super, who was later replaced, that super, all the storage rooms, they were filled with garbage. It took the new super months to clean it, and his staff months to clean it up. Can you imagine to have all of these storage rooms filled with, I mean, not daily garbage, but like just stuff.
Yeah.
These are New York City property values, right? So we installed the gym, the new super, he cleaned up installed more storage bins, which creates income to the building, and the gym increases property value because more people, they like to have a gym in the basement, right? Even if it's not a professional gym, but it's still very convenient. So basement space is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember going down there to do the laundry and stuff, and it was always
Yeah. And in our building, when you go down in the basement to the basement, if there's no in the elevator to the basement, if there's nobody there, then when the elevator doors open, you can see that the lights turn on. So they're on motion sensors, and you actually physically see that they go on. And basements are occupied, on average, of course, it's different everywhere, 10% of the time. So even if you put in LED, very efficient lights, if you have them on motion sensors, then 90% of your electricity is saved.
Yeah, every little bit counts, that's for sure. So obviously, it sounds like you actually have more of the expertise of coming in, and board members or boards that know they need some guidance and help, you help them through. But I imagine you get a lot of questions from friends and just like from people who are potentially looking to buy. And I know we're going to have a lot of those folks out there. So I'm curious if you have any input for them if they are looking to buy a condo or a co-op in an apartment building, and they maybe just suspect that the board is making poor decisions. They looked at some of these financial statements. They just get a vibe from the basement, like you said. Is there anything that they can do to just like maybe take that next step? And and this is just a thought. I was like, can you just knock on doors and be like, hey, how's it like to live here?
Yes, I mean, you can. Knocking on doors is probably not so easy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can speak with the staff. If it's a doorman building, speak with the doorman. You can ask your real estate broker if you can meet with a super, whether that's possible or not, I don't know. And different buildings operate differently, right? I mean, take the elevator up and down a few times and see if you bump into someone.
Yeah.
Check out the mail room. There's always people in the
Yeah.
mail room.
There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not so easy to speak with them, and then if they're not lucky, they'll find two people in the building who hate everything about it because they're just complainers, and then
Sure, yeah. That's true. There's one in every crowd, obviously, or a few. What are some of the things that current owners can do where they're like kind of in this situation? Or do you have any recommendations for them? Like they're starting to see like they didn't realize that they moved in, or things are starting to surface that maybe weren't there before.
absolutely. In my opinion, when you buy an apartment, the first thing you should do is run for the board. But that's my opinion. It takes extra time, but you have just made your largest lifetime investment in many cases. Not everybody, but in many cases. And the only way you're going to be able to protect that is by taking an active role. I wrote a book on it, Living the High Life. I wrote this book about it, and it has the blueprint of how we organize our crew. In different locations, it's different availability of data. But in New York City, you can go into Street DC and you can find all the recent sales, and you can find all the apartments, and you can make a list and you make it in a spreadsheet, and then you can knock on doors and you can organize something, right? And you have enough shareholders or owners who are willing to join you to take over the board, you can easily do it. So my book, it's a guidebook of how to take a proactive role, all the different steps, and it has all the stories, and it has some stories about our clients also, and some horror stories of how to take a building to a proactive and run as good as possible, versus the worst case scenario, which was the condo collapse in Surfside, Florida, in my opinion. So it has all the different steps and all the different things that you can do to take a proactive role and really get your building into tip-top shape. And all the governing documents and it doesn't have the legal aspect of it, but different tools that you can use to get there.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question because I was going to ask you about the book, and I wasn't. I apologize, I don't have time to actually read it myself yet, but I can guarantee you we will because, like I said, I spent some time in Florida, and you mentioned that building, and obviously even since then, it's really raised a lot of eyebrows, and people have taken a step back and be like, hey, I need to get more involved and understand what could be maybe boiling below the surface because that was scary stuff. I mean, that's an understatement. And I imagine, like you said, your time and like sometimes you're just taking that extra, even if you don't win the spot, you'll probably learn a lot through that process and meet some people. And is it as simple as I might say, like you show up to a few meetings and then anyone can put their hat into the ring? I mean, is it like, I'm sure there's complexities to it, but.
And you would never believe this, but most annual meetings, you show up at the annual meeting, you raise your hand. There's one annual meeting per year, and that is where where the election takes place. Now, in our clients' buildings, that's not how it's done. Can you imagine if you own one share of Apple, you show up at the annual meeting and you raise your hand and say, oh, I want to be on the board? Yeah, I don't think so. So what we do for all of our clients and our own building is that we have a nomination process where you have to fill you have to send in your bio, why do you want to be on the board, etc. And it's a date, which is, 10, 14 days before the annual meeting. So nobody can only just raise their hand. They actually have to apply like you would apply for anything else in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then automatically, if you apply and you meet all the requirements, then you're put on the ballot and then people can vote for you or not.
Yeah. From the board perspective, like let's say someone who's on the board, or is there a time where where it makes sense to reach out to someone like you, like certain signs? Are you open to a conversation, and are you there to say, hey, look, I don't think you need my help, and just do X, Y, and Z, or
Yes, I think that I am always needed, because who doesn't need a helping hand, right? Especially if you're a volunteer. I welcome any co-op and condo owner or any co-op or HOA board member to reach out to me. We have a long list of various ways of working together, and in some cases it can be as simple as taking our new board onboarding course, which is brand new. Very often new board members, they don't really know how it works, so we created a brand new course, which is a 9-module course. It's online, it's on demand, they can take it anywhere, and they can stop, and then they continue where they started, and it's a brief under 45 minutes from start to finish if you take everything in one spot. And it tells you all the different things, all the different players, who to work with and what is important. It talks about your fiduciary responsibility, which you know very well, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a brief onboarding course so that boards can walk into their first board meeting with confidence.
Gotcha. Okay. So if someone reaches out, like you'll do like a quick little talk and you'll say, hey, look, this is what we recommend, and then what the cost is, and just lay it all out to them, and then they can decide whether or not like they want to move forward, more or less. Yeah. So that seems super helpful. This is actually really interesting. I mean, so just really quick, you mentioned you just do high rises and like mostly like the New York style type. So like, is there somebody who doesn't, like, you're not really like, for instance, I'll just give you an example, a real life example. My parents are snowbirds. They live down in Florida, and they are in a part of this condo association. It's just 2 floors. There's like buildings where there's like maybe 5 or 6 units. Is there like a line where you like to say, hey, look, I don't know if we would get involved, just because I think there's like you mentioned, there's a wide range of how condos and co-ops and homeowners associations may be applied to different types of real estate. Is there somewhere?
So we actually, our smallest building that we have worked with had 4 units, and our largest right now is 440 units. So we work in, and the location is not very important to us. The only reason I keep on talking about New York City is because we are in New York City.
Sure.
And we're a wife and husband team. So therefore we are the client facing. Mm-hmm. So we're here. We have teams and we have partners all over. So we market to New York, but we can very well assist.
But like a community like that's like not out of reach for you, as far as like, if it's more of a community, because you mentioned like golf, and in Florida, like almost every community has their own golf course, and there's like, just so the listeners know, like where. So you're willing to like to take a call from anyone regardless, and just
yes.
Then, okay, all right,
absolutely.
That's
but
great
our
to know.
Sweet spot is apartment buildings. They don't have to be high rise, but apartment buildings, the ones that have a flat roof, an elevator, a joint boiler.
Yeah. And there's no shortage of that in New York City, of course. All right. Well, this is really great, really interesting. Thank you so much. It's been an eye-opening conversation. So I want to just give you an opportunity to tell give our listeners a little bit of insight into how they can follow you, reach out to you. We'll of course include all of that in our show notes.
Thank you, John. So, hi, everyone. I want to speak with every co-op and condo board member or HOA board member in the country who hears this. And you can find me at www.thefolsongroup.com. That is our main page. It has our phone number, our contact information, and that is our hub. Reach out, we'll set up a time to talk, and we'll see what you're working on. I always want to hear from co-op and condo board members.
Oh, excellent. Thanks again, Tina. Thanks for joining us. It was a great conversation.
Don't forget to follow the Agent of Wealth on the platform you listen from, and leave us a review of the show. We're currently accepting new clients, and if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation with our advisors, please do so at bautisfinancial.com/call.
Thank you for listening to the Agent of Wealth podcast. click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bautis Financial. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial planning and investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investments and financial planning.